All right. While we are waiting for a few more people to come in and join us, maybe because we have just a 1 hour today, and we have a packed and exciting schedule, I would like to welcome everyone. And as members of the PROVED project, we are welcoming you with an absolute pleasure to share the new version of our tool. And yeah, would like to promptly start with the event. And my name is Burcu Yeşil, and I'm with the Climate Analytics team in Berlin, and I will be moderating the event today. A quick moment on the housekeeping. Please be aware that this, sorry, the slides have went a bit more quickly than my clicks. Yeah. Please be aware that this webinar is being recorded, as you've heard the notification, and it will be shared publicly. And we'd like to ask everyone to rename themselves with their names and organizations if possible. And in case you have technical problems, you can contact my colleague Sylvia Schmidt, and she will support you. You can contact her privately on Zoom chat. Throughout the event, you can use the Slido platform to ask your questions, and please scan the QR code that you see on the screen and type the event number. You can vote for the questions that you like, and this will help us prioritize the ones with more votes while we're going through them in order. And before I leave the floor to the speakers, let's go through the agenda quickly together. We will first hear from our project officer from the EU Commission's SINEA. Then we will hear an overview of the PROVED project from its coordinator. This will be followed by a demonstration of the PROVED Climate Risk Dashboard. Afterwards, we'll hear statements from our 3 panelists and then respond to your questions that we will see through Slido. With this, I'd already like to give the floor to Alessio Pietrosanti from SINEA for her words to welcome all of the participants and contributors today.
Thanks a lot, Burcu, and good afternoon and welcome to the participants from my side as well. As you said, I'm the project officer for PROVED, so I can say that I'm very happy and proud that we are all gathered here with so many participants and many more joining, I see. I want to stress once again that this is a research project, a EU-funded research and innovation project. It was funded through the Horizon 2020 Framework Program for Research and Innovation, and as such is primarily a scientific project. So they're really addressing, advancing the knowledge about the impact of climate change, and especially of the scenarios overshooting the targets of Paris Agreement. And so they are deploying the cutting edge techniques and even developing innovative approach for that. So as such, they are contributing to scientific literatures and the major scientific assessment. But much more than that, and this is the reason why we are here, they're doing an effort, the project is doing an effort to synthesize this knowledge for its practical use. And this is very important because we understand that there will be knowledge gap, and we have a lot of gaps to fill in, but it's also important that we prioritize climate action. So I think that on that respect, PROVED embodies very well the European Union policies on climate services to really have scientific advances that are relevant for implementing action on the ground. So the dashboard, it goes directly in this direction. So I'm very happy really that we could present such a concrete output for adaptation planning on the ground. But let me also see that one single tool, even excellent, even very good, cannot make it all. So it's really important. We know that adaptation is a local process that has to be systemic, it has to be really inclusive, and there are many entails bringing together many different stakeholders, many different type of knowledge and interest at the local level. But tools such the dashboard, I really hope, and this is a wish, and I think there are really there's a big potential there, can be used and deployed in further effort. Thinking, for example, to mission adaptation and to national local projects that are in this moment trying to build and cope with the impact of climate change. I really, it's important to stress that this public this is a public resource that people could use and to further build on it. So I'm very, very proud and happy that we can present this, and I will not take much more time and give the floor to the project team for guiding us into this exploration of the tools. Thank you very much from my side.
Thank you very much, Alessia, and I'll seamlessly take over. My name is Karl Schleusner. I'm the PI of that project, and it's really a day of that I'm immensely proud of what we've gotten to. So the project is 2 years in the making, and now today we are launching the version 1 of our climate services dashboard, which is a major milestone and deliverable of our project. We really want to thank the European Commission and Alessia in particular, also personally, for her support throughout this time, and also our guests and panelists for joining us today for this launch event. And we hope you make your time worthwhile. I will not keep you much from what you all came for to see, which is actually our dashboard, but I want to say 2 words about the project itself. The Provide project is about even more than what we're going to see and learn today. It is really a project that focuses on questions of climate risks and impacts of potential overshooting, so peak and decline pathways that may exceed 1.5 degrees or even higher levels and then return to lower levels of warming in the future, and what this means for climate impacts and adaptation needs. And there's a lot of exciting science as well as other products coming forward from this project. It's still running until summer of this year, and it's a European project with 17 partner organizations. To do that, we've been following a bit of an innovative approach, and no worries, I'm not going to talk you through this rather overcrowded graphic. But what I want to highlight is that we are exploring overshoot implications across scales, and that's something that's also going to be featuring in our dashboard in terms of its cross-working group integration. So we do have a range of different emission scenarios resembling different climate futures and on the mitigation side, that we've built an innovative simple climate model and emulator-based tool environment that allows us to explore them all the way to the urban scale and their consequences of different global mitigation decisions for a very local and adaptation relevant context. And this is also really at the core of what our climate services dashboard is all about. And this is really one of the key outputs of the project. You've all been following the link. We've put it live as of yesterday, so we are very much looking forward to all of you exploring it and providing us feedback about it. But without much further ado, I want to hand over to the floor to the person that actually has been in charge of leading these developments over the last 2 years. And already from my side, a big thank you and congratulations, Quentin Lejeune. And we're looking forward to presenting the tool to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karl, for giving this introduction to the Provide project. My name is Quentin Lejeune, so I've been working quite intensively on developing the Provide Climate Risk Dashboard. I'm very happy today to officially launch this tool, or the version 1 of this tool, because it's not the latest release. So hello to everyone. What I'm going to be doing now is just presenting shortly what the tool is about. So I just have a few slides, and then we're gonna look at a live demonstration of what can be done with the tool. But first, so a few words about, what the actual tool is about. Oh, sorry for clicking a bit too quickly. So the way I like to define it is that it's a database for global to local climate impacts that is actually growing. So we provide information for a number of indicators, and that allows us to explore how climate impacts will look like, may look like in the future, depending on the pathway that the world follows in terms of emissions. So we provide information for 140 cities around the world, and we cover 16 urban climate indicators, but also at the country scale for 172 countries, where we look at 4 terrestrial climate indicators, with more to come in the next month. We also look at how the conditions will evolve over the ocean, with 4 marine climate indicators for 174 marine exclusive economic zones. And we provide this information for 10 emission scenarios until 2100 or 15 emission scenarios until 2300. So you're going to see better, I hope, what that actually means concretely when I will play the live demo video. But a few more words to say that there are different ways to look at this database that I've presented just before in the dashboard. The first one is to actually explore local future impacts and how they differ depending on the climate futures that we will follow and how that will affect the environment and people. So you can, by selecting a global emission scenarios for the future, see what would be the resulting impacts. And we do that for 3 geography types and 3 impact driver categories. So marine climate, terrestrial climate, and urban climate indicators. But what is also possible is to actually look at the database from another perspective and the information from another perspective. And this is another user mode that we call explore how to avoid future impacts. And the idea is to answer the questions, how do we avoid undesirable levels of climate impacts at the local level? So the idea is to start, if you look at the figure again, to start by defining an undesirable level of impact, other the geography type of interest actually for the cities, which is the focus of this event today. And then we offer this user mode for 140 cities in the world. And after having defined this impact level, you can look at what emission scenarios, global emission scenarios are compatible with not exceeding that level. And then to finish, I just want to mention that in addition to providing information and the possibility to visualize information on future climate impacts across the world for different geography types, with a focus on urban heat in cities, we also provide information on emission scenarios, what they are, what research questions they help answer. And also this is, I would like to highlight this is based on the IPCC AR6 working group 3 dataset of scenarios. And so we hope that this can help also advance the integration of the scenario types of scenarios across the working group from the IPCC. But I will stop for now talking, and then just we play video that is recorded to actually guide you through the tool and to hopefully give you more insights on what you can do with it. Welcome to this demo of the Provide the Climate Risk Dashboard. The Provide Climate Risk Dashboard is first and foremost a database that allows to explore, visualize, understand, and download information on global to local climate impacts. It covers indicators from various sectors, with a focus on heat stress over 140 cities in the world, but also on temperature in most countries in the world, as well as indicators representative of the conditions for habitability of oceanic environments in the areas that countries have the exclusive right to exploit, or exclusive economic zones. On the Explore page of the tool, 2 user modes are available. Let's start by using the Future Impacts mode. Here, you can explore how different levels of climate action will lead to different climate impacts. Let's, for example, try to find the answer to this question. How many heatwave days per year will Mexico City experience in the 21st century, depending on the future trajectory of global greenhouse gas emissions? First, let's select Mexico City from the drop-down menu. Then let's select an impact indicator among those offered for cities. You can see the full list in the drop-down menu accessible for the urban climate sector. Let's select heatwave days per year. You can check the exact definition of this indicator by hovering over its name. You then need to select global emission scenarios for which you would like to explore climate impacts over time. Select 1 to 3 emission scenarios for this button on the left. When clicking on it, a window pops up that allows you to select from a list of scenarios. For example, let's first explore how the number of heatwave days per year will evolve over time in Mexico City in the scenario 2020 climate policies, which assumes no further climate action than the policies that were implemented in 2020. On the right-hand side of that pop-up window, you can read a bit more information on each of the scenarios available from the list, including how global warming will evolve over time. Once you're done with selecting a scenario, you can see a time series plot that shows how the number of heatwave days per year in Mexico City would evolve till 2100, including a confidence interval derived from our modeling simulations. The line in the middle is color-coded, so that you can see when global warming levels of 1.5, 2 degrees, and 2.5 degrees are crossed. Below, you can also see a map showing how the number of heatwave days per year vary in space of the city for 2030, 2050, or 2100. It's also possible to check how results would differ in a scenario with more ambitious climate action by selecting, for example, the shifting pathway scenario from the list, which is compatible with the 1.5-degree goal of the Paris Agreement. By selecting it, the time series plot and the map will adjust so that you can compare how results differ for these two scenarios. This version of the dashboard does not only offer the possibility to check results for indicators for cities, but also climate conditions in the surface ocean, such as sea surface temperature of the Cape Verde. Here, you can access the same plots we have already looked at before. But instead of looking at projected changes for a few emission scenarios, you may instead ask yourself, what is the risk of exceeding critical levels of impact in the future? This is what this last graph is focusing on. You can first select a level of impact, let's say sea surface temperature of 1 degree above today's level on average over Cape Verde. As a result, you can explore how much of our local risk is unavoidable, even in the most ambitious climate action scenario, as indicated by the dark gray columns here. You can compare to how much of that local risk can be avoided by strengthening climate action by looking at the light gray columns, which indicate the difference in risk between the most ambitious climate action scenario and the least ambitious one. Now we'll focus on the second user mode of the climate risk dashboard, which is available for indicator of heat stress in 140 cities. Rather than providing information for different emission scenarios, this allows to answer the question, what needs to happen so that we can avoid reaching undesirable levels of heat stress in my city? For example, how much global climate action is required to avoid getting more than 50 heatwave days in Mexico City? The text on the left-hand side tells you that, on average, Mexico City experienced 15 heatwave days per year between 2011 and 2020. Use the slider to select 50 heatwave days per year. Then specify the maximum risk of crossing that level that you are willing to take, 50% or 5%, let's say. As a result, the tool will tell you that to keep the chance that the urban area of Mexico City will on average experience over 50 heatwave days per year below 5%, one should pursue global emission pathways in line with limiting average global warming to 1.7 degrees. Below, you can also see the years at which this level will be exceeded for the three main scenarios available in the climate risk dashboard. You can also check how the results differ for various locations of a city by using this drop-down menu, or by checking the table and the map further below. By offering to start from local impacts and linking to metrics of global climate action, such as global warming levels or global emission scenarios, we're hoping that this user mode will be of particular interest to stakeholders focusing on urban climate adaptation, such as urban planners and policymakers at the city level. In addition to these two modes of a dashboard, we have a methodology page where you can find detailed information on the models used for projections in all sectors, marine, urban, and terrestrial climate, as well as the simulations that were conducted and how the data was processed. We also have a glossary page where we try to include a bit more information about general concepts and indicators. And finally, we have the Explainers tab, while you find extensive information on what climate scenarios we use and their characteristics, such as how their global emissions or global warming levels evolve over time. Importantly, on this page, you can choose a research question and see a set of scenarios that responds to it. Of course, you're welcome to check the About page, where you'll find information about the project, and the Contact page, where you'll find information on where to contact us in case you have questions, feedback, or comments. Thank you for listening, and we hope that you enjoy using the Provide Climate Research Board.
Thank you very much, Quentin, for the demo. We are apologizing for the issue if the letters were too easy to share that we want to make this tutorial available for your view in the future. And I'm happy to see the interest as well. And with this, after the demo, I'd like to give the floor slowly to our speakers. And with the aim of the session, the aim of the session was that we hear from different
Welcome
perspectives.
to this demo of the Provide the Climate.
And oh yeah, sorry. One back, I think. Just a second. Yeah. So yeah, as I was saying, so the aim of the session was to give the floor to the experts in this field and hear from different perspectives, representing more from the practical side of urban climate adaptation, more from the scientific expertise, and one from the policy making field. And with this, I would like to give the floor to our first speaker, Luca Arbau, expert in resilience and climate change adaptation from ICLE, for his speech.
Thanks a lot, Vorku. First of all, thanks a lot for inviting me and giving also the opportunity to test this very interesting tool. As you introduced me, I'm Luca Arbau, working at ICLE Europe, specifically on resilience and climate adaptation. As some of you may know, ICLE is a network of cities, so we basically work every day with local and regional governments to basically build capacities in local administrations, and also tackling specific issues related to sustainability. I think I have many things to say, but I wanted to just organize them in a few points. So first of all, I think this is a very useful tool in general for local and regional governments. I think particularly the last tool that was showed, is avoiding future impacts, has a lot of potential, as also was mentioned for climate change adaptation practitioners, because I think it really talks to all different departments in the municipality with a very easy language, and so allows for interdepartmental collaboration, let's say. So allows to put different people working in the municipality on different sectors on the same table, and really understand the local system. So understanding how the impact of different what is the impact of different policies in changing, let's say, the effect also of heat waves in the city. And this is, I think, also something that cities appreciate more and more in general in tackling climate change. Let's say that in Europe we have seen in the last few years that the effect of heat waves is definitely devastating, and like people are affected more and more by it. So the response from cities is really happening now. But I have to say the knowledge in quantifying the effect of heat waves is still very low. So these kind of tools, I think, are very, very important in this sense. Of course, like also looking at the tool, it's clear that it doesn't pretend to be a comprehensive tool like tackling from, let's say, from knowledge to implementation, but it really gives a very detailed understanding of the issue. So of course, like also taking the words from Alessia at the beginning, I think we really need to understand that this is not the only tool that municipalities, local and regional governments, let's say in general, have to use when discussing strategies on climate change adaptation for heat waves. But it's maybe one of the first tools they should use. And in saying this, I think there is a high potential also of combining this tool with other tools that are already available and known by city governments. I am thinking in this moment particularly of one tool that we developed under another European funded project that was called ARC. This tool was looking specifically at historical city centers, and among like the different threats we analyzed were also heat waves. This tool is called Resilience Measures Inventory. I can also put the link on the chat, but I think like using the Provide tool, it's very useful to understand basically what is the ideal scenario we want to achieve, the how to achieve that scenario. So the measures that we should take, the specific measures, can be provided through other tools, as this one that I mentioned. So the combination of the different tools, I think it's key for local and regional governments, and yeah, I think it's something to be further explored. Just to say, connected to this point, that I know there are different initiatives that are trying to collect different tools. We are involved in one of these process under the mission adaptation, where basically we have created a framework for supporting cities and regions to basically develop pathways of transformation. And as part of this framework, we want also to include a toolbox. This toolbox will collect important frameworks, tools, guidance, etc., that can really support the cities and region in achieving their own goals and basically drafting these transformational pathways. Saying this, I also must say something that I think must be highlighted much more, and maybe this tool somehow may seem it's leaving behind, is more of the social aspect related to the impact of heat waves in cities, which is definitely a major element to be taken into consideration. But in this regard, I think there is, again, a growing collection of knowledge on this topic that cities and regions can really consult, and that I'm sure will also be part of this toolbox I was mentioning before. Just as for mentioning it, in the past few years, the Red Cross Red Center, together with ICLEI also and other more than 20, I think, partners, have developed a guideline that it's called Heatwave Guide for Cities. It's a very hands-on document that basically provides interesting elements for cities to quantify and to understand the social impact of heat waves. So going beyond the infrastructural and environmental impacts that probably are more visible and easy to understand, but also exploring like this social component that I mentioned. So just to sum up, three elements that I think are very important to be taken into consideration. The first one, how important the Provide tool is to really make different people from different departments in the municipality sit together and understand together the impact of heat waves and the heat stress in their city. Second element, the importance of connecting different tools and to achieve basically a resilient building objective in local and regional governments. And third element, very important also to take social considerations where looking at heat waves. If the Provide tool is looking more specifically at the data on the heat stress, it's also very true that we need to take the social component into consideration, and this is possible through different guidelines that are already available there. I will put just 2 links on the chat so everyone can access it. And again, thanks a lot for this opportunity. And yeah, I'm also here for any questions.
Thank you very much, Luca, for your insights, your very relevant points, especially looking at it from your relationship with local governments and based on your expertise. And yeah, I would like to, and thanks also for summarizing at the end your points, and we will get back to them, and we will also have some questions from the audience. And now I would like to give the floor to Winston Chow, the co-chair of Working Group 2 from the IPCC and also professor of urban climate at the SMU, Singapore Management University.
Right. Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to one and all. I see some friends in the virtual audience. Greetings from Singapore. Yes, my name's Winston Chow. Been a professor of urban climatology here at SMU. I've also worked on projects in the region. One of the projects is in Cooling Singapore. As its name suggests, we're trying to reduce the urban heat issue in this part of the world. But before I actually get to my 3 points, first, I'd like to congratulate Carl, Quentin, and the rest of the Provide team. It's a very good achievement that you've done in providing this dashboard. In my own projects, one of the challenges we have is trying to communicate the issues of urban heat very clearly to urban policymakers and other stakeholders. And with this tool, we've taken a big step towards providing that very relevant information for this key stakeholder group. I'll restrict myself to 3 points pertaining to the scientific parts of this. One is that it's a challenge to try and have a good visualization of the particular climatic hazard of urban heat. It's important to try and frame this in the context of how it is a risk to urban systems. And in the AR6, the previous assessment done by the IPCC, we try to articulate risk as a amalgamation or combination of 4 components. One is that of the hazard in the relevant hazard, in this case, heat, urban heat in this sense. The second is which parts of the urban system are exposed. So the exposure element is critical. The third is the vulnerability component in terms of what parts of the urban system are sensitive or have the capacity to adapt to heat. And the fourth is something a bit novel. It's oftentimes overlooked. How you respond or you don't respond or you incorrectly respond to the hazard in question. And I see the Provide dashboard is essentially helping to communicate 2 aspects critically. One is which parts of the metropolitan areas of the 140 cities, and I assume counting, included inside the dashboard have that high degree of heat hazard. And secondly, how it relates to that response element. Policymakers would like to see the degree of exposure, linking to which parts of the infrastructure and people are exposed to heat, and showing this, very clearly in cities for different timeframes, and also in terms of different options, what you can do and what you can't do pertaining to mitigation scenarios. I would say is a key driver towards having an accurate response to dealing with the risk of urban heat. The second thing I want to talk about is that I'm very pleased to see from a scientific perspective, the relevant indicators of urban heat exposure are included inside the dashboard. We like to see in this field, moving away from indicators just pertaining to temperatures, maximum, minimum, or mean. We want to see indicators that are very relevant to vulnerable populations or sensitive populations, especially in rapidly developing cities in let's say the global south, or in my part of the world in Southeast Asia, where there's a move towards indices that incorporate humidity, that incorporate wind speed, and that incorporate exposure to sun rather than just temperature alone. So in the drop-down menu of the dashboard, I was very pleased to see the number of hours of high heat exposure during the night, or using wet bulb temperatures or wet bulb globe temperatures, which are many cities in Asia, such as in mine or in several Japanese cities, have incorporated, which are much more relevant to particularly vulnerable urban populations, such as the very old, the very young, and a lot of outdoor construction workers who help to build the rapidly developing cities that I'm talking about. So having that element there, adds to that relevance of this particular tool to stakeholders. The third point that I would like to add is related to how this tool is very timely. Adding this particular urban database to the dashboard is very timely and topical, particularly with the special report on climate change and cities that the IPCC is developing for AR7. We have a scoping meeting due in a couple months' time, and it's to help develop the outline and the narrative for this report that is due in early 2027. So apart from what Quentin was talking about in terms of the relevance towards cross-working group initiatives, particularly with the mitigation scenarios in Working Group 3, I would also add that there's a lot of relevant Working Group 1 and Working Group 2 information that this dashboard can provide in a very timely fashion. I don't want to prejudge the scoping meeting or the report, but there are elements of integrating how locally relevant climate observations from high-resolution urban climate data, or from observations, can combine with the larger regional global scale heat wave data from your RCMs and your GCMs from the Working Group 1 perspective, or from the Working Group 2 perspective, in how to articulate and communicate this urban heat risk clearly to policymakers, to make sure that adaptation towards these particular heat hazards can occur with a minimal risk of maladaptation or no adaptation arising from this information. So the point about this dashboard providing very timely, very policy relevant information to subnational, to municipal, or to local policymakers and stakeholders is something worth noting and applauding. And with that, I'll pause here. I look forward to questions that are raised in the Slido, and I look forward to the discussion after this part of the talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Winston. Connecting the dashboard and the timeliness of it in terms of in relevance to the scientific context, especially mentioning the IPCC special report on cities. And thank you for your insights also. And now I would like to hand over to Anna Dimitrievich. And yeah, please, Anna, we are looking forward to your speech as well. And I hope that you can hear us, or that you can unmute yourself, because I remember that you had issues at the beginning with your sound, but I hope it's working now. I think we cannot hear you.
Maybe while Anna is trying to figure out the sound issues, I can try to respond. But Anna, please feel free to interrupt me anytime when your sound works again. But I can also try to follow up directly on the interventions from Luca and Winston.
You should be able to hear me now.
Well, but okay, I should have waited a few more seconds.
Yes, we
Please
can
go
hear
ahead,
you
Anna.
now.
Yeah, I will respond to Luca, Winston, and you afterwards. Please go ahead.
Yes, I was getting a message that participants can't unmute themselves. So I think I was registered in that way. Sorry for the delay, and I will keep it brief to leave also time for the questions and answers. Would it be possible in the meanwhile to start showing my slides? I only have prepared two. Thank you. So many thanks for the invitation and for the chance to also hear the views of the other panelists. And I concur with what has already been said in both terms. I would like to offer a bit of framing in terms of what we do on adaptation policy in the EU, first off. The most important to flag that since 2021, there is a legal mandate for progressing on adaptation at the union level and at the member state level, in line with what is included in the Paris Agreement. This progress has been assessed at the end of last year, both at the union level and at the member state level. And in the process of that, we were looking for tools such as some of what this dashboard is offering, and indicators at the national level, most importantly for that part of our process. And we found some, but in general, the conclusion that we drew there was that the landscape is somewhat fragmented, and for sure there's scope to provide more user-friendly and nimble tools. So I will come back to this specific dashboard very shortly. For now, on the adaptation landscape, I would continue with highlighting the 2021 EU adaptation strategy, which in general sets the goals of faster, smarter, and more systemic adaptation, as well as more action on the international stage. And again, knowledge related data, progress on data, tools, etc., is an important component of that. Finally, I would flag up that very shortly we will come with a Commission communication on climate risk management to set the vision on where we need to move in the coming years on adaptation. I have highlighted some of the achievements that have come forth under the umbrella of the adaptation strategy. I'm not going to go through them also because of the time pressure of these. The Horizon mission on adaptation has already been mentioned by Luca, and indeed the community of practice around that, the regional and local authorities who participate in that mission to develop transformative pathways for adaptation are among the users who would most benefit from tools such as this one. Next slide, please. So a few thoughts on this dashboard with the proviso that I have not been able to thoroughly immerse myself in it. So just on the basis of the preview that I've had the pleasure to have, I would confirm that what we see is a clear demand for localized information on climate impact and solutions, and that comes from very diverse groups of stakeholders at different levels. As mentioned, we within the Commission also have needs in this area, but also at the national level, regional and local level, the national authorities do, and private actors as well. So there are many corporations that see this kind of information and use paid for tools, where what you get is often a bit of a black box. And individuals also potentially have an interest in accessing tools like this when they make their own investment decisions relating to their houses and so on. So many different uses in terms of investment planning could feed into sectoral strategies and plans and so on. I've already mentioned kind of the broad impression about the current landscape from the user point of view. So the Provide dashboard looks like a really promising tool to advance what we have at the moment. It impressed me as a user-friendly framework, which links very nicely policies and scenarios and potential outcomes. And there are many aspects that I found particularly helpful. For example, the breakdown of the avoidable versus unavoidable risk under different scenarios that was also shown in the video today. I did have a query about the projections, which I understand come from the state-of-the-art climate models, but from the point of view of the policymakers, I do wonder if it could be, if the information could be contextualized better, because for some of them, some of the projections, they look surprisingly mild compared in some cases to already observed impacts and what some of the literature is suggesting in terms of possible scenarios in the future. So it is not for me to say what are the best ways to address this, but some thoughts along these lines could be to include observed changes also, for example, when the maps are being shown. Perhaps a choice of reference periods also referring to all the periods and not only 2011 to 2020. And perhaps also alternative maps that show not the central projections, but the highest plausible impact. And there are some other elements or respects in which it could be considerably fine-tuned, but overall it seems like a very promising effort to me. And thank you very much for your work on it.
Thank you very much, Anna, for pointing out to some specific elements of the dashboard and also mentioning the bridge between what the European Union are doing in the context of climate adaptation and the community of practice, and how such tools and data can fit in and be helpful. Thanks a lot for your insights. And now I can give the floor to my teammates to maybe respond to some of the comments that were made by the speakers in this session. And then we will move on with the Q&A session as well.
Thank you, Bojo. And thank you also Luca, Winston, and Anna for all these comments and the feedback also on the tool. Yes, so I will respond to these points now, and maybe to start with, provide a bit of information on the. All right, this is where we want to know. Okay, let me click there. Okay, this is the slide I wanted. Sorry for that. So yeah, so let me provide maybe first a bit of information on where we want to go next with the Provide Climate Risk Dashboard. So let me provide a bit of context to everyone about what to expect in the future. So we expect to add, you can expect to have more indicators on sectoral climate impacts being added to a Provide Climate Risk Dashboard as we're moving towards the end of the project in August this year. So sectoral climate impacts, including on glaciers and biodiversity, that will be added to the tool. And we'll also add, and I think that's a big milestone in the future development of the tool, an adaptation module, which will include some information on methodology to conduct so-called overshoot proofing, to consider climate overshoots in adaptation, and also integrate some case study outcomes on overshoot proofing and also illustrating how climate resilient urban development can reduce heat stress. And we also try to connect this to other existing tools in the ecosystem that has been mentioned, for example, by Luca, such as the adaptation support tool from the European Environment Agency. So a few points to respond directly to Anna, Winston, and Luca. And I will start maybe with what Winston you mentioned about the special report on climate change in cities that for which there will be a scoping meeting soon, and that is expected to be launched, I believe, in 2027, to be released in 2027. And you know, we're very happy that this database that is accessible and visualizable in the tool is now available for everyone to download, and we really much encourage everyone to download this data, use it, and combine it also with information on other layers such as exposure, vulnerability, and also response that you mentioned, to actually you know, explore not only the hazards that we provide in the tool, but also how these results actually impacts on people, for example. And this links to what you said, Luca, about the importance to look at not only impacts, not only the hazard component, but also the social impacts of impacts actually on people eventually. And so we really much encourage use, well, first exploration of this data in the tool, but then also encourage the researcher that may be interested to actually download this data and overlay it with other layers of information they may have access to, such as on exposure, vulnerability, or response. On the adaptation response to try to limit the impacts of heat stress on population, then you may be interested in hearing that actually, as part of a Provide project, we have some case studies in a few cities in the world, of Islamabad, Bordeaux in Norway, Lisbon, Portugal, Berlin in Germany, and also Nassau in the Bahamas, where we actually look at the heat stress risk and also how working together with urban planners and city level stakeholders, trying to see how climate resilient urban development plans could actually reduce heat stress. So this is done in conjunction, as I said, with urban planners and city level stakeholders, but then there's modeling using the same models that is used to generate the data that is currently accessible in the dashboard that is done at even higher resolution to see how that could be helpful to reduce the heat stress risks. So that, I think, follows up directly on the point mentioned by Anna about the importance of information on adaptation, and that it is high on the agenda of the European Commission. And we hope that with such case studies, we could actually, you know, make things progress a bit on the local level, at least for the case study cities that we had the opportunity to work with. And as Luca mentioned, you know, this tool is actually launched, but also part of an ecosystem of tools funded by the European Commission and others. And they are, you know, links that can be established between those tools, and Luca posted links for two of them that can be complementary. And also want to mention something that Luca already mentioned a bit, which is that we're really willing to establish links with people who developed such tools and or were using other such tools, such as the one that Luca posted about in the chat, through the mission implementation platform for adaptation that has been set up by the European Commission. Yeah, right. So I will stop here, and I think we want to answer still a few questions from the audience that have been asked using the Slido link that has been posted in the chat.
Yes, thank you very much, Quentin. And thanks, Zach, for sharing the screen to the Slido. So the first question, and it's one of the more voted ones, so let's start with it. And can we replicate the model to other climate factors like wind, rain, forest, fire, etc.? Quentin, perhaps you can quickly respond to it.
Yes, sure, thanks. So we haven't talked too much about how the data that is accessible in the tool has been generated, but there is more information on that in the methodology page of the tool, so you can check it for yourself if you want. But to try to respond to the question, so so some of the models actually that we provide information, so that generated the data that we provide information for, such as the temperature-related indicators in the so-called terrestrial climate sector, actually is also a model that simulates projected impacts on forest, fire weather, and we aim to include some of these indicators in the coming weeks. So there will be information on that, and the other one were rain or wind. So there might be information also on rain being added, or on at least on precipitation, as we call it, rather in the scientific community. But for wind, we didn't use the model in the Provide project that actually forecasts or simulates what would be the evolution of wind patterns in the future. But so the replication is not straightforward, as relies, you know, on scientific efforts that are not to be underestimated, how much energy went in there. And, you know, and we need to generate the data, we need to actually have models who can generate projections from the indicators of interest. But yeah, we will be adding some for, as mentioned in my slide earlier, so on glaciers, on biodiversity, because we had explicit modeling for these indicators being done in the Provide project.
Thank you, Quentin. I think you also partly responded to the second question, and also during your response to the speeches, that people can access the raw data by downloading, by using the download function of the tool. And for the data that was used in the models, you can always check out the methodology page on the dashboard to find out more details about it. I don't know if you would like to elaborate on it. Otherwise, I will take a question to Anna. Yeah, okay. Then I will mark this. And so there was a question directly to Anna, whether she can give some more information on the European Commission on Climate Risk Management, please. When and what the contents to expect.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. So this is going to be coming out in mid-March in response to the first ever European Climate Risk Assessment and other knowledge base and evidence base. The climate risk assessment itself is a scientific report that is coordinated by the European Environment Agency, and it, in unformatted form, it will also be released around the same time, and its fully edited format will probably be released in April. The Commission communication on climate risk management responds to the evidence base from the policy point of view. Of course, at this stage in the legislative cycle, it's not going to announce new legislative initiatives, but it will point the way in terms of horizontal keystone policies, as well as sectoral actions that would need to be developed in order to adequately prepare and build resilience. And it will also increase the clarity on risk ownership, that is where the responsibilities lie, including between the EU and the member states respectively, and the capacity to act. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much, Anna, for the response. We have a few more questions in the chat. I think to a few of them, my colleagues will be responding in the Zoom chat. But I would like to, because we are coming at the top of the hour, so I would like to move on with a little survey that we would like to share with you. So if we can go back to the slides. So first of all, once again, thanking all the participants and the speakers for all the insights and the questions. We would just like to take a quick moment to ask for your feedback on the event today, but also mostly on the dashboard and whether you would like to collaborate with us in the future. So please scan the QR code and you will see just a few questions quickly to respond. Promise it won't take much of your time. And finally, with the closing remarks, if you are interested in further engagement with us and with the Provide project, and if you would like to have a targeted meeting on the dashboard use for your sector or for your organization, you can always contact our colleague Sylvia Schmidt, and we will try to arrange a meeting to further collaborate with you on the project and even further. And just again, thanking everyone for their participation, and our speakers, Luca, Winston, and Anna, for your time and commitment and your insights and comments. Thanks a lot for your contribution, and also all the team that is behind the development of the tool and of the organization of the event. So I'd like to thank everyone on behalf of the project and my team. And we hope that you enjoyed the session today. Thank you for your time, for joining. And yeah, please keep in touch with us through social media or signing up by signing up for the project updates. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone.